So I'd like to talk about these ridiculous rumors I'm hearing about Disney deciding to retcon the sequel trilogy of Star Wars. Now, I do want to say in advance that I actually believe the rumors, as in I believe that there is some truth behind them, and I'll get more into that a little bit later. So I'm not saying that it's just crazy people are talking about it. It's just crazy that people are thinking this is really going to happen. Now, let's talk about these rumors a little bit in case you've not heard them. They're all over YouTube, so you can definitely do a search and find videos that get a lot more detail than I'm going to get into, and some that claim to have some really good insider information, which again, actually, I believe that some of this insider information is correct, so I'm not questioning that. The short of it is that Disney and key people within Lucasfilms, including Jon Favreau and George Lucas himself, who is not officially part of Lucasfilms anymore, but they have been trying to bring him back in to help consult, that a lot of these people are really unhappy with the sequel trilogy. They're really unhappy with what Kathleen Kennedy did with the Star Wars movies these last few years, and they want to undo it. And the rumor is that they have a plan that's going to evolve around a scene we see in The Rise of Skywalker. Now, in The Rise of Skywalker, there's a scene where Rey goes back to the crashed Death Star site. She goes in, and of course, she sees like this side room where the holocron's kept, and she has a vision of like a dark version of herself. Now, this room, although it was right off Throne Room from Return of the Jedi, was not actually shown in the classic trilogy, which is totally fine. I mean, it didn't show a lot of the Death Star in the classic trilogy, so I don't consider any kind of retconning they're putting it in there. But again, this is a sequel trilogy edition that it was created. This is not sort of legacy Star Wars. To me, it's pretty obvious that Abrams was making this room as sort of a kind of a nod to that dark side cave on Dagobah, where Luke went in and saw Vader, and it turned out Vader was him. That was, of course, foreshadowing that Vader was his father, and that Luke would have to make the choice to turn to the dark side or not. So this side room in the Death Star is something very similar to that. Rey goes in, gets the holocron, but she also has to confront a sort of a dark version of herself. I mean, that's just Star Wars 101 right there. But some of the creators at Lucasfilms are saying, okay, we could actually take that and use and explain that room and use it as a way to retcon sequel trilogy. So the idea is that that's a room called something like the Force Mirrors or the Force of Mirrors or something to do with like Force and the Mirrors, which apparently is something that was referenced in, I think, either the Clone War or the Rebels TV show. Not actually referenced as in being on the Death Star, but just that there was something like that. So what they want to say is that when Palpatine was thrown down the shaft in Return of the Jedi, that he, using the Force, he reached out to that room of mirrors to pull him in, because the mirrors are apparently portals to other realities and other times. So the idea that they're saying is that when Rey saw a dark version of herself, that actually that was a version of Rey crossed over from another reality. Again, obviously, people who totally forgot about Empire Strikes Back and don't get Empire Strikes Back, but laying that aside, because truly, it's fiction. If you want to rewrite it that way, you totally can. So what they want to say is that Palpatine reaches out to these dark mirrors and that they pull him in, so he actually doesn't die, in the bottom of the pit. He actually gets sucked into this portal, which allows him to survive the Death Star crash, but him reaching out and using those portals in that way messes him up somehow, which explains why he looks so messed up in Rise of Skywalker. And he misses time, so he's gone. There's actually a period of time where he's not in the Star Wars universe because he would have time traveled. So they want to use that to explain a lot of stuff. Now that, of course, is what they're trying to say happened with the sequel trilogy, but then they want to use that. And again, this is not Abrams saying, and definitely not Kathleen Kennedy saying this. This is something that they want to kind of write in to try to say, this is why the sequel trilogy happened the way it did. But then they want to say that Anakin and Luke were going to come back from the dead to fight a version of Palpatine who keeps using apparently these dark side mirrors or something like that to travel through and resurrect himself. And the way they ended up like confronting him, I'd have to go back and watch some of these videos. Basically, what you're trying to say is that they would like confront him and using the portal somehow and basically stop him from ever having used the portals to escape the Death Star, thus saying he did die in Return of the Jedi and he was not around, and therefore 7, 8, 9 could not happen, at least not the way that we saw them in the movies. They'd also say that if this happens, there's going to be no Rey, apparently no First Order. So again, your basis for the sequel trilogy then falls apart, which of course is what they're trying to do. They want to retcon it. Now here's why this is ludicrous. It's nothing to do with their plot concept. Star Wars is science fantasy. You can literally do anything you want to with it, and it's hard to say that breaks the universe because you're just not following any really set laws. It's fantasy. It's sci-fi. You can do whatever you want to. The problem is that Disney has already poured billions of dollars into the sequel trilogy. It has been done very publicly. This is not like some direct-to-DVD series they did or something It's not like the EU from the 90s and the early 2000s. That EU was really only popular with hardcore sci-fi fans and hardcore Star Wars fans. The general public, tons of people who'd seen the original movies and the prequel trilogy, knew little to nothing about the EU books. So retconning them, changing them at the last moment, the public doesn't care. But the public, the whole world, has seen these sequel trilogies. They've seen Disney come out and say, here is episode 7, 8, and 9. These follow up Return of the Jedi. You can't just simply wipe that away. The general public would be extremely confused by this, and also the general public doesn't really care. If they try to actually put out a new 7, 8, and 9, the general public is just, I don't think they're going to have any interest in it. Also, part of the problem with trying to put out another 7, 8, 9 is you can't get Carrie Fisher back, obviously. I think Mark Hamill would definitely do it, especially if they did his character in a way you'll like. I mean, he was not happy with Last Jedi, and he did that. So why would he not come and do another 7, 8, 9 if he really liked how it handled his character? But Harrison Ford's another matter. Now, I'd say there's no way Harrison Ford would come back, but then he did do that cameo in episode 9, so maybe he really would come back. But, I mean, Harrison Ford and Mark Hamill are getting old. No offense to them, but they are. You can't really bank that they're going to be around and able to do more movies in the future. So you really have to make a 7, 8, and 9 that's really sort of divorced from the original trilogy in a way. And the general public's not going to be interested in that. Now, I keep using this word general public. And I think we need to understand. I'm assuming most of the people watching this video that you're a sci-fi fan or a Star Wars fan or something akin. We need to understand, we sci-fi fans out there, we Star Wars fans out there, that while we may have made the name Star Wars valuable in the realm of comics, games, and all sorts of stuff like that, it's the general public who made the movie successful. There's not enough Star Wars fans and sci-fi fans for the Star Wars movies to have made these billions of dollars that they've made. What put these movies over the top, what made them so iconic, is that people who didn't care about science fiction could go watch these movies and love them. You got to get the normies excited about new Star Wars movies, and they're not going to be excited about rebooting 7, 8, and 9. And in the end, when it comes time for Disney to put up or shut up, where it really comes down for them willing to shell out millions and millions, if not another $1 billion, to remake 7, 8, and 9, the decision makers, the people who hold the purse strings, are going to know that's not a good idea, and they're not going to go through with it. So it's not going to happen. Now, they may retcon it, and they may actually go with this theory, this thing about the dark mirrors, and put it in EU. Now, I know EU is technically not supposed to be EU anymore. It's supposed to be canon. It's all part of one universe now. So if they truly decide not to make any more movies that actually reference core events in 7, 8, and 9, I could see them possibly do that. Or they go ahead and do that in the novels and the comics. They do this retcon, and they don't do it for the movies. And then they just certainly split off EU as being kind of its own thing, kind of like the way Lucas approached it when he was running Lucasfilms. Just because they're trying to build this, quote, one consistent universe doesn't mean they can't change their minds at any time. And if it's the most profitable decision to split them up, you can bet they will. They're a business. They're in it to make money. Anyway, that's all I got for now. What do you think? You think I'm right? You think I'm wrong? Why don't you leave something below? Also like and subscribe and do all that cool stuff and help the channel. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.